When it comes to the main requirements of the study program EMJM, here, of course, what we expect from the consortia, from the universities, to jointly design a fully integrated curriculum and commonly implemented procedure. This, of course, has to be based on the standards for quality assurance of joint programs in the European higher education area. These, of course, standards are easily, you can find them easily on the ECHA website, which is the European Quality Assurance Register. And there you will see a list of criteria and standards like joint selection, promotion, common services that we want that you offer to your students, joint administrative and financial management, etc. The list is quite long, so please, I suggest really that you have a look on their website. When it comes to the composition of the consortium here, we expect from you at least to have 3 higher education institutions in your consortium from 3 different countries, and 2 of them have to be from program countries, The rest could be partner, but 2 of them have to be program countries. And of course, the idea also here, it's after, to have established your consortium, the study program is, of course, to attract and enroll excellent students worldwide. Of course, part of which, unfortunately, not all enrolled students can benefit, but part of them will benefit from an EMJM scholarship. Next slide, please. The second, the second part of the main requirements are also very important. The EMJM requires also compulsory physical mobility for all enrolled students. When we say enrolled students, again, it's scholarship and non-scholarship holders. No distinction between the 2 categories anymore. And at least, of course, 2 study periods of study in 2 countries with a minimum duration of 1 academic semester each, meaning 2 academic semester separated, 1 semester in one university, 1 in another university of another program country. And of course, here, the countries and the institutions should be different from the country of residence of the students for the compulsory part. When it comes to the scholars and guest lecturers, here, of course, the consortium has to commit to engage scholars, guest lecturers for teaching, training, research activities during the study program offered to the students. And finally, and very important, to deliver at the end of the 2 years of the study program, for instance, a joint degree or multiple degree. Of course, we have a preference for the joint degree, and we highly recommend, if possible, and if your national legislation, of course, allows it. A very important element that I add also on this slide, it's the fact that the EMJM proposals, actually study program, have to be developed, ready, and to be run, advertised worldwide after the selection. It means that when you apply, your EMJM has to be ready. Thank you. Next slide, please. The setup from an EMJM and joint master. We offer a grant agreement of 6 academic years to the consortia, independently, of course, from the length of the master. The commitment, you commit to enroll a certain number of students per project. We will see later on, it's 60 maximum. This is the ceiling for the scholarship holders. At least 4 semester editions, meaning before previously intakes, lasting 1 to 2 academic years. It depends if you apply for a 60, 90 or 120 ECTS study program. The first edition of students has to start no later than 1 year after the signature of the contract, the grant agreement. So it means that if you apply and you are the winner, let's say, of a study program this year, it means that your project has to be ready to implement the first edition of students 2020 September 1st. So again, here, the compulsory part, it's at least 2 study periods in 2 countries. We insist on that, which at least 1 in a program country and both different from the country of residence. And here, the rule changed a bit. the geographical balance, you have to offer not more than 10% of the total scholarship to the same nationals. 10%. This does not apply, of course, to the additional funding of the targeted region if you have. Next slide, please. Here, this is the EMJM setup, an example. As I said, you can see, for example, usually the master program proposed and selected most of the time are based on 120 ECTS. So you can see on the right column, 2-year master courses, 120 ECTS. 2021, let's say it's a signature of the grant agreement with us, or you applied for a year of preparatory activities, then it means that the addition of students, selection of students and the addition will start the September 2022. And if not any preparatory activities applied, it means that you have to be ready when you sign the contract this year, the students start their mobility. Next slide, please. Taking part as an organization. Very important slide as well here. It's, of course, the EMJM is open to any public and private organization in program and partner countries. The application can be submitted by any eligible program or partner country. This is also something completely new because under the previous EMJMD program, this was not possible. It was only possible for program countries. The program countries, higher education institutions, universities have to get, and have a valid Erasmus charter for higher education, important. And when it comes to the higher education institutions from partner country, they should adhere to the HA principle in the partnership agreement, the consortium agreement. We also require from you that the master program, of course, is accredited, evaluated, and completed at the time when you apply. The minimum consortia made of minimum, as I said, because it could be much more, 3 higher education institutions from 3 different countries, and 2 at least must be program countries. The rest are optional. And you can, of course, include as well academic, non-academic partners, associated partners, if they bring an added value to your study program. Next slide, please. Here are just some statistics regarding the participation of our program countries in the former EMJMD programs between 2014 and 2020. We have selected around 250 projects. And here you can see on the left graph, for example, Norway has 4 higher education institutions coordinating an EMJMD. And I think the first one is dated from 2017 selection. I think 2018 there was nothing, and then 2019 I think 2, and 2021. And on the right side you can see the participation of the countries, the program countries, has full partner in an EMJMD program. We can see, for example, Norway has 27 higher education institutions participating to an EMJMD program, has a full partner between 2014 and 2020. Next slide, please. So here, of course, as said, the students, of course, the individuals are taking part to your study program. It's open to all students worldwide. The applicants must hold a first higher education degree or equivalent and must not have benefited previously from EMJM scholarship. The best ones can benefit from a scholarship, of course, depending on the number of scholarships available in your consortium. And the students, of course, apply directly to the EMJM consortium. You are most probably familiar with the catalog. The catalog is online for the previous program, meaning the EMJMD projects. You can see there are some filters, many filters actually. You can filter by year of selection of project, you can filter by country, you can filter by thematic field. So I really recommend you to go and have a look if you are not familiar with that. Next slide, please. Here it's just an overview of the program country scholarship holders 2014-2020. You can see some data. Yeah, I mean, here it's quite gradual. Next slide, please. So here we enter in the very important part section of this presentation of the EMJM. It concerns the funding and the rules of funding. This didn't really not change a lot. It's still a one simplified EU grant. We have still two main targets, main beneficiaries, meaning the higher educations in one side and the students in the other side. And here we have three components based on 3 unit costs. 1 unit cost for institutions, 1 cost for individual special needs, and 1 cost for the scholarship. Next slide, please. This is just an overview for the coordinators, universities, higher education institutions familiar with EMJMD versus the new program EMJM. You can see we try really to make much more simple the unit cost and much easier to manipulate. You can see, for example, that for the scholarship part, all these different sub-envelopes like installation costs, travel costs, subsistence costs, etc., we forget. It's all story. Now it's just one unique scholarship. It's of an amount of 1,400 per month. When it comes to the institutional part, here as well, no more participation cost and management lump sum mentioned, but we offer 750 euro per month. We will develop in the coming slides, in the future slides, all these different aspects. And also for the special needs, it's also a unit cost. And we offer from 3,000 to 60,000 unit cost, which could be double. It means that the maximum sailing can go until 120,000 euro per project. Next slide, please. Student scholarship. So the first part, the first unit, the first unit cost. For the student level, this student scholarship will cover the subsistence, the installation and travel. And of course, this was also the case before. The consortium apply fee waiver policy when it comes to the participation cost. Here, it's a single unit cost per scholarship holder, as already mentioned. And how is it calculated? If you have, for instance, a study program of 2 years, 120 ECTS, then it means that for one student, this is the calculation for one student, you have 1,400 euro per month. You multiply it by the number of months of study, here 24 months, and you will see that the student will receive at the end of the 2 years of study program 33,600 euro as scholarship. When it comes to the project level, as said before, the maximum ceiling and to enroll students as a scholarship holder is 60. The calculation here, the maximum proposed for a project, it's 2,016,000 euro per grant. And the same unit cost here again apply for program and partner country students. We do not make any more distinction between the two categories. Next slide, please. Here a graph just to show you, the big envelope and how this was displayed before regarding the different sub-envelopes for installation, travel, subsistence. And you see the distinction between program and partner, but also the distinction even within the partner country students according to the distance where they live. All this disappeared. It's a unique, solely unique scholarship that you will give to your students. Next slide, please. Now, the second component of the grant, which is the institutional cost. Of course, this implementation cost of the study program will pay what? Will pay the staff, will pay the guest lecturers, invited scholars, the insurance of the students, and so on and so forth. And so on and so forth. So how this will be calculated? So we give a unit cost per enrolled students of €700 per month. How do you calculate? If, for example, you go in one project, let's say the maximum ceiling of 60 scholarship holders and 40 non-scholarship holders, it makes 100 enrolled students. The maximum, it's €1,800,000. You calculate the unit cost 750 multiplied by the number of months of study multiplied by the number of enrolled students. Here, of course, in the example, it's 100. We took it the maximum ceiling. Again, no distinction between scholarship and non-scholarship holders to apply the institutional cost, and the same unit cost also for program and partner country students. Next slide, please. Again, a graph. Here, we didn't, give as an example the maximum ceiling with 100 enrolled students. Here you have a program of 2 years, 120 years, offered to 60 scholarship holders with 15 non-scholarship holders. And you can see the amount for the institutional contribution offered for an EMJM versus the amounts previously offered for an EMJMD. It is slightly different. Okay, next slide, please. Individual needs, special needs. This actually unit cost is for students with disabilities, could be physical, mental, and which will require special devices, assistance during their study program. How this is calculated? It's a contribution based, again, I said, on the individual needs. You will see on the program guide when it's published, I hope very soon. There are 10 different unit costs varying between a minimum of €3,000 until €6,000. The €6,000 per project could be multiplied by 2. You can go as a maximum of €120,000 per grant, per project. And this usually, of course, when you will apply, you don't know exactly if you will have on board, students with some disabilities. But my suggestion is really to apply for these funds and to see, if this will be needed or not during the implementation of the project, when the student will come with such a request in his application. And you will get this money. In case, for example, you do not apply for this individual needs portfolio, let's say, during at the application stage, it means that you will pay it from the institutional cost that we will pay. So again, this also individual needs, special needs are offered for all enrolled students. No distinction between scholarship and non-scholarship holders. Next slide, please. Additional funds. It was called, I think, under EMJMD, additional funding or something like that. It's the budget actually given by the EU external services, and they have some priorities when it comes to some regions. Here, they gave some more budget, extra budget for EMJM programs, and it responds, of course, to their priorities. The EU financial instruments concerned by these additional fundings are IPA. The naming still needs to be confirmed. You can see in brackets to be confirmed. And in the ICI as well, we still don't know which countries will be part of this instrument. But be aware that you can apply as well when you will apply to the program. You can apply up to 24 extra scholarship from the 60 scholarship of an EMJM. And it will, of course, the grant will cover the scholarship of these 24 extra students. And we will also pay on extra the institutional cost for them, meaning the 750 unit cost per month. And a total for this additional funds portfolio, it's 1,238,000 per grant. Next slide. So here's some information about our EMJM call for proposal. So we hope that the call will be published in April. This was the last news we got. Then the deadline has to be confirmed. It depends, of course, of the date of the publication. The budget, the approximative budget dedicated for the EMJM program project, it's 98 million euro in total, plus more or less 24 million euro for the heading 6, the additional funding. The number of projects we expect more or less to be selected is 25. And again, I repeat, the number of scholarship per project, maximum sailing, 60 scholarship as a scholarship holder, and approximately on extra 24 additional scholarship per project. Next slide. So how to apply? You will, as soon as it's published, the call is published, you will find under the funding and tender opportunities portal, the eForm application. And of course, this has to be really, has to be detailed and really well completed. If the eForm is not completed, unfortunately, there are a big chance that it will not go for the eligibility phase. Next slide. When it comes to the evaluation procedure, here for the first part, nothing really changed with the previous EMJMD program. It's a peer review by independent external experts. 3 experts assess each proposal submitted in a one-step evaluation procedure. 2 important thresholds. For the relevance minimum obtained, you have to obtain 22 out of 30. And the proposal overall has to be scored at least 70. In case of ex aequo with other, let's say, application, we will give priority, first of all, to the highest score for relevance of the project, then the impact, and then the quality. Next slide, please. Let's see now the award criteria normally. Voilà. Here, I will not go in detail because there is nothing really to add, but just be aware that when we assess, we will assess against the relevance of the project, the quality of the project design and implementation. Next slide, please. We will have also to assess again the quality of the project team and cooperation arrangement and the impact. You see the maximum points also given for each award criteria. Of course, all these criteria are fully developed in the program guide. Next slide. Now, we will start the second part of this presentation, which is focusing on this new lot action called Erasmus Mundus design measure. So this actually, if you're interested, if let's say that you're completely new, you don't know how to start with an EMJM and you would like to be part of this big family, let's say, you are interested, but you're not ready. So my recommendation, our advice is really to start first with a design measure project, and in order to launch at least the basis of your joint program. Next slide. What is the rationale behind this Erasmus Mundus design measure? First of all, it's to fill the gap of the EM action by supporting the development of new master programs. If you go under the catalog, you will see already many existing study programs. Here, the idea is to develop new study programs. The second also rationale here behind is to diversify the offer of the joint master programs and also encourage new academic cooperation by involving underrepresented E+ program countries, institutions, and any other thematic areas. And I wanted to say that the 2 lots, when I say the 2 lots, the EMJM Erasmus Joint Master and EMDM Erasmus Design Measures are 2 independent separate lots. One does not imply, so you can start with an MDM, okay, and then later on go for an EMJM, but of course you can start also with an EMJM study program without necessarily have done before an EMDM. They are completely independent. Next slide, please. So what is an EMDM project? It's a short duration grant to support the institution, the universities, to set up a new joint master program and in Europe and also beyond. It's one beneficiary who will mobilize a group of other higher education institutions, aiming, of course, at, to have an EMJM consortium at the end. And of course, this is, as I said, a completely independent funding scheme from EMJM, independent calls and completely separated. Next slide. For reference, what is an EMJM? Since an EMDM should bring in a certain way to the construction of an EMJM at the end. The EMJM is a jointly designed, fully integrated curriculum and commonly implemented procedure. It's, as I said already, delivered by a consortium of higher education institutions involving at least 3 higher education institutions from 3 different countries, which at least 2 should be by program countries. It's also the international outreach to attract and enroll excellent students worldwide, and of course requires compulsory physical mobility for all recruited students, and at the end offering a joint or multiple degrees. It's very important also to keep in mind that if you go for an EMDM, your objective at the end is to reach an EMJM program and target. Next slide. Again, international cooperation as well. In the consortium, let's say, in the partnership you would like to put in place, you collaborate, with program countries and also with partner countries, meaning the countries throughout the world. Next slide. The expected outcomes for an EMDM. What do we expect? That you establish, you design a program jointly, that you also put in place jointly the procedures, joint administrative financial management, common services that you will offer to your students, a joint promotion dissemination. You will need also to draft a partnership agreement and a student agreement, and also, of course, to work on a joint degree policy and launch the accreditation process. This is actually the purpose of an EMDM. And of course, to explore, as already said, the European approach for quality assurance of joint programs, if of course, again, your national legislations allows it. Next slide. So the setup is one beneficiary, mobilizing a group of other universities, higher education institutions. The fixed duration of an EMDM project is 15 months, not more. And the EU grant, it's only a single lump sum contribution of 55,000 euro. These, will contain the cost linked to the activities that you will need to implement in order to set up the new joint master program. Next slide, please. Taking part as an organization. Again, the application, can be submitted by any eligible program or partner country, as the EMJM. It's open to also any public and private organization in program in partner countries. And of course, the higher education institutions established in a program country has to have a valid Erasmus Charter for higher education. Next slide. For the call, normally the EMDM should be, published on the same time than the EMJM. So again, we hope for April, the deadline as well to be fixed according to the publication of the call. Here, the budget approximately, it's 2 million euro. This is the total budget dedicated for this special, let's say, lot EMDM. And the number of projects we expect under this lot is approximately more or less 36 projects. Next slide. How to apply? Same procedure, same way. You go on the funding and tender portal. You will find there the application eForm. Next slide. The evaluation procedure here is a bit different. We will go for peer review by independent, always external expert. Instead of 3, it's 2 experts assessing each proposal in a one-step evaluation procedure. The threshold also here is different. It's only 1 threshold, and your proposal has to be scored overall at least 60 points. In case of Execo with other applications, with other projects, we will give the priority, let's say, to the project with high score for relevance of the project, then the impact, and then quality. Next slide, please. The award criteria, again, we will assess more or less with the same criteria than the EMJM, but as you can see, the points attributed for each criteria is different. Here, instead of 30, we have 40 points for the relevance of the project. For the quality of the project design implementation, instead of 30, is 20. Next slide, please. And you will see that for the project team cooperation arrangement, here it's the same, it's 20, and impact is 20. So here as well, all the EMDM award criteria will be displayed properly in the program guide. And I would like just to draw your attention, next slide please, to some other sources where you can have also information, a lot of information, but it will come soon since the website is under construction. We will of course soon have the call open. All the documents will be there. You will have access to the funding and tender opportunities portal for both actions. And you have also other sources. Can you please go to the next slide, Vegat? And here, there's other sources. You can find also, for your information, some statistics document to see where we stand with the previous EMJMD. The cluster meetings also we organized in 2018 related to the European approach for quality assurance of joint programs and the follow-up implementing the quality assurance. You have many policy papers also related to the EMJMDs. You have also the link related to the standards for quality assurance for joint programs in the European higher education area. What can I say? You have also, of course, very important, the Erasmus Mundus catalog. So you have plenty sources of information to go and to go through and to read. And I think that's it. Vegat, if you can go to the last slide. So here I would like, before concluding, here it's a very important email address for all of you. We have the functional mailbox EAKA E+EMJMD. It's a very, it's a mailbox dedicated for all the consortia or future consortia you would like to apply, in case you will have some questions related to the application, I don't know, to some award criteria, to the requirements, how implementing an EMJM or EMDM. This box is for you. So please do not hesitate to address your questions, your concerns. And we are a few colleagues actually behind this box trying to give response and answer. I would like to thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fisson, for your very nice presentation. I hope I said it correctly this time. Yeah.
Yes, perfect.
Was very interesting, and I'm happy to hear about the novelties of this year's call. So, and we have received a few questions throughout your presentation, some which we have tried to answer by ourselves, others that we would like to ask to you directly. So there were some questions regarding this. I will just read it so that you understand, because there is someone who's wonder about this, how many students can be recruited from different countries. Like, is it so that, for instance, maximum 10% can be Norwegian, 10% French, and 10% German, with no more than 10% from any other individual?
Exactly.
And why is that? Is that more to secure this geographical distribution, or Is it?
Yes, it's a question of balance and fair, equal treatment. Not to have, a bulk of students from the same nationality, to offer also the possibility as much as possible to different students from different nationalities. Yes, definitely.
Okay, and there is another one that we have more or less replied, but just to be sure that we replied correctly, it's, does the cost for program country students go from 9,000 euros to 18,000 euros for students in 2 years programs?
There is no more participation cost. This is something to, it's true that it's completely another approach, and we have to change a bit the setup, the mind setup, and there is no more distinction between program and partner countries, because this was really the main request from our beneficiaries, from many universities. We didn't want to distinguish anymore these, let's say, both categories. I don't like this terminology, but this is how it was called, under the previous program. And again, as you have seen in my presentation, even the unit cost, we do not make any distinction between program and partner country students for the scholarships. Yes.
Yeah, and then I just have to look at my I have a kind of a cheat note here, because that also gives me to this institutional costs that you mentioned. I didn't quite understand it. This is from myself. Is this kind of then replacing what's previously was kind of this these lump sum that the consortiums were giving around 55,000 euros?
Exactly.
And it's
precisely.
expected. So it's expected to give that amount to the coordinating institution, and it's up to the consortium how they distribute the funds between them. Is that correctly understood?
Yes, Uni, but this, let's say the institutional cost will depend of the number of students you will enroll. Okay, it means what? It means that more students you enroll, more, you can get the unit cost for institutional cost.
And you get it also for self-financed students as well. So not only the scholarship holders.
So, exactly, because in the graph, we took it as an example. We put it, a program of 120 ECTS study program, okay, 2 years program. And there I put, I think, 60 scholarship holders, the case of 60 scholarship holders and 40 non-scholarship holders. And the institutional cost can, cover the 40 non-scholarship holders as well. So it means what? It means more you have enrolled students, when, as I said, enrolled students means scholarship and non-scholarship, has no distinction anymore. We just make the distinction between scholarship, the 60 scholarship, but no distinction between program and partner country students as well. So it's really, another approach, much more flexible.
So this is also a way then for you, if I understand correctly, to attract more European students in the programs, because as I could see, Norway was it 2 in the last period, which is something we need to work on.
I wish we could have much more, and I hope to have on board much more students from Norway, because we can see that Norway is present as a partner, and coordinating projects, and then it means that you are welcoming students worldwide and also from other, program countries. But it could be good as well that your students as well, move and study in other countries. So yeah, I hope that under the EMJM we will. But don't forget that the statistics, are for the moment, because don't forget the projects under EMJMD are still running. The 2017, they are implementing maybe the last intake, but you have the 2019 projects, and I think you have 2 projects coordinated by 2 Norwegian higher education institutions, and maybe don't forget that they are quite new. These maybe universities will select in the future, next coming years, students from Norway. We hope.
Yeah, we hope so too. I also have another question from one of the attendees. With more access to partner countries in the consortia, are you worried that the United Kingdom higher education institutions will take a large part in the action, even though they are no longer a program country?
Yes, so you have seen as well that this is much more open to apply. You can apply as a program, but also as a partner country. So even if UK, falls, let's say, in the category, because this is still under discussion, falls, in the category partner country, UK can still apply as a partner, country. So of course it means that they can have also students, they can be part of the program.
Yes, and then another one from one of the participants, it's what will be the estimated cost for the self-financing students for them to pay, for instance, participation cost?
But the participation cost, we usually, we are not really eager, we usually recommend and suggest, and advise even to our consortia, to go for a fee waiver policy. This is a crucial point. It was already mentioned in the previous EMJMD program, and this will be also clearly stated, in the new program. So for us, this is something we cannot say. It depends also, you as a universities, as a higher education institutions, what is needed, necessary. We cannot have an estimation, but in other cases, as I said, we are not in favor of participation costs to apply, for participation cost, or to request that the students pay, a participation cost for to be part of an EMJM program, study program.
Yeah, yes, I understand. Yeah, I also have something that I think I also know the answer to, but can MOOCs be part of the master program? If I understood you correctly, 60 ECTS have to be provided as part of mobilities, but does this mean that, for instance, the 60 remainings could be MOOCs?
Well, there, we have to watch out, because I don't have really information related, the possibility to do a MOOCs or not, because it's true that we also in a very unpredictable, we are living in a very unpredictable, moment with the pandemic. So, as you are most probably aware, most of the universities, are providing courses online, on remote. So, and we opened this door, but this is exceptional, it is exceptional. So the idea of the EMJM, the Erasmus Mundus, was always, to give the possibility to students to move, to study, to be part of another culture, to be open to another, country. So here it has to be seen, but it's true that you have the compulsory period, this for sure. For the rest, I can ask, but I don't have a straightforward answer right now.
Okay, that's understandable. I have also a question from my side as well before I move to the next question from the participant. Yes, and it's this is a question we often receive from our institutions, at least in previous years, and it relates to how the consortia should document that the program is fully accredited at the application stage. Because as you know, in Norway, the universities are self-accredited institutions, but of course they need to rely they need to follow the regulations given by our accreditation agency, NOKUT, which also are in line with the regular European standards. So and then the next would be, if I understood you correctly, the programs should be ready to start already in August this year. Is that correct?
Alors, it's correct in the sense that if you go for an EMJM without preparatory activities, don't forget that you have still the possibility, when you apply, to cross, to tick the box preparatory activity year. And it depends, because we have a few projects under the previous program who actually decided to not go for preparatory activities because they were very experienced and running, projects and programs. The selection was more or less done. Voila. And the edition before it was intake. The intake of students was ready also to start, in September, just after the signature of the grant agreement. So here again, it really depends. I will not say tailor-made, but it depends from one consortia to another.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And I have one question from, I see the time is running out, but I will have another question from Karina Talman is like, given that the Erasmus Mundus joint masters call should be available in April, is the estimated deadline for submission available, and is the estimated evaluation period set?
Well, as I said, it will, I cannot answer to this question because I have no clue. The last information I got from my colleagues is that in April, we should, publish the call. So it will really depend. I don't want to mislead you or to say something, I have no idea. So the best thing is to say nothing, just to pass the message that we expect, I hope, because first of all, it was February, then it was in March, and now it's in April. So I hope for April, we will have this published. But I know as well that if we go for a publication of the call in April, most probably the contractualization period will not be done before autumn. So this for sure, because the process is quite long between the moment, we open the call, leave the necessary time to all applicants. And then, we have to go for different steps: admissibility, eligibility, evaluation, selection, and then the contractualization. So it's a very long process and it takes time. Yeah. And in order to be, to be sure that we do things properly, I can tell you that for sure the contractualization will not start before, autumn.
Yeah, and this was exactly why I asked you the question about being realistic to really be able to start up in the fall 2021 with a student intake and everything. That might be a bit challenging. But I see time, unfortunately, is running out. So if participants still have questions, please just write them and we will try to reply to them afterwards. And if we are not able to reply from them from our side, we hope that you, Fison, can assist us in replying to questions.
Of course, with pleasure. We are here for that.
Yeah, and I thank you very much for your contribution, both with the presentation and also in the Q&A section, and for the participants who are asking questions.
Okay, thank you very much to all of you, and I hope to see much more institutions, universities from Norway on board in this fabulous family EMJM and the new action EMDM. So thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you too. Merci.
Bye-bye.
Au revoir.
Merci. Bye.
Bye.
Au revoir.
Ok, da det vel på tide å gå over til norsk, siden vi nå skal snakke om prosjektetableringsstøtte. Og jeg har vært så heldig å få med meg min kollega rådgiver Vegard Furestøl Vibe, som ansvarlig for det tiltaket i Diku. Så Vegard, nå kan din tur også fortelle deltakerne om hva muligheter som finnes innenfor denne ordningen.
Tusen takk, Unni, og tusen takk til Fison. Det var veldig spennende og kjekt å se at såpass mange har tatt turen hit i dag, og håper at det har vært nyttig for dere. Det har i hvert fall vært nyttig for meg. Jeg skal snakke litt om prosjektetableringsstøtte. Og for de av dere som kjent med prosjektetableringsstøtte, så vil ikke dette være mye nytt. Vi har ikke gjort noen store endringer i det siden sist. Prosjektetableringsstøtte fortsatt såkornsmidler som Diku har satt av for å støtte søknader til de sentraliserte tiltakene i Erasmus+. Det altså de tiltakene som administrert av kommisjonen, sånn som for eksempel Erasmus Mundus. Midlene skal altså gå til norske institusjoner og organisasjoner, altså høyere utdanningsinstitusjoner og andre organisasjoner som kvalifiserer til å kunne søke på det sentraliserte tiltaket. Og formålet da å bygge et samarbeid med partnere i resten av verden som skal kunne lede til en god søknad til det sentraliserte tiltaket. Vi skiller mellom de søknadene hvor den norske søkeren skal være koordinator i det endelige Erasmus+-prosjektet, og de der norsk søker skal være partner. Det påvirker da igjen hvor mye midler man kan få tildelt. Innenfor tiltakene som Sport, Jean Monnet og Erasmus Mundus Design Measures, så kan man da få 50 000 kroner som koordinator. Og i de tiltakene hvor man også har partnere, så kan man, om man skal være partner, så kan man da få 25 000. Innenfor alle andre sentraliserte tiltak, inkludert Erasmus Mundus Joint Masters, så kan man da få opp til 100 000 kroner som koordinator og 50 000 som partner. Midlene kan brukes til en rekke aktiviteter, for eksempel reise- og møtekostnader. Det kanskje ikke så aktuelt i disse tider, men det kan vel likevel hende at man kan få brukt den aktiviteten der. I tillegg så kan man få støttet lønn for ansatte i organisasjonen som tildeles PS, eller prosjektetableringsstøtte. Det betyr at det ikke mulig å lønne ansatte i andre institusjoner enn den som tildeles denne støtten. Men man kan også få dekt kostnader i forbindelse med ekstern assistanse og rådgivning. Her det også viktig å nevne at i år så kan man da få støtte for gjennomførte aktiviteter før søknadstidspunkt, så lenge de påløpt etter 1.1.2021. Så på en måte kostnader som påløpt fra 2021 til begynnelsen av 2021 til søknadstidspunkt kan inkluderes i søknaden. Det må bare begrunnes i søknaden. Dette nytt av året, og det på grunn av den korte tidsfristen som vi hørte mellom utlysning og søknadsfrist. Søknaden må inneholde en del informasjon. Dere må blant annet ha identifisert partnerne som skal være med i den endelige søknaden til kommisjonen. Vi har i dag fått høre hvor mange partnere som skal være med i Erasmus Plus-søknaden, og de må da altså være identifisert i søknaden. Vi ber også om en klar og tydelig plan for det sentraliserte Erasmus Plus-prosjektet. Dere må altså beskrive prosjektet og partnerskapet på en god måte. I tillegg så må dere vise relevansen av prosjektet opp mot forskjellige prioriteringer på nasjonalt og europeisk nivå. Og dette viktig for at vi skal kunne evaluere hvorvidt det sannsynlig at dette vil munne ut i et solid prosjekt som har mulighet for å nå opp i konkurransen der ute. Dere må også ha en arbeidsplan for søknadsarbeidet og et budsjett hvor dere klargjør utgifter som dere ser for dere. Det som må være på plass jo disse partnerne. Det noe vi ser på. Vi ser også på eller vi vurderer også om også søker og partnerskapets kapasitet til å nå opp i den europeiske konkurransen som jeg nevnte, og evnen eller sannsynlig evne til å gjennomføre Erasmus-prosjektet. Det må altså være et godt prosjekt, det må også være et godt partnerskap for at vi skal kunne tildele, eller det en av de kriteriene vi ser etter. Vi vurderer også sannsynligheten for at søker vil kunne klare å utvikle et godt prosjekt, gitt den tidsrammen man har. Så det også enda en grunn til at man skal søke tidlig, sånn at det god tid til å kunne utvikle dette prosjektet. Litt om utbetaling av midler. Først så får dere utbetalt 60% av støtten, og så får dere de resterende 40% ved innlevert rapport. Og rapporten, og det forutsetter også at dere faktisk har søkt til det sentraliserte tiltaket. Og så må dere kunne dokumentere utgifter, også frikjøp. Dere får mer informasjon på våre nettsider om alle detaljene, og det en av de ressursene som skal lede dere videre til nå. Men bare for å gi litt andre tips først, så som sagt så det viktig at dere kommer i gang med PS-søknaden så fort som mulig. Søknadsfristen i år veldig kort, og husk som sagt at utgifter påløpt før søknadstidspunktet og helt tilbake til 1. januar kan inkluderes i søknaden. Det betyr at dere kan jobbe synkront med en PS-søknad og med det sentraliserte Erasmus Plus-søknaden. Det også en mulighet for dere, og når dere søker til oss, så får dere også en vurdering tilbake. Dere får en tilbakemelding. Så dere får også litt input på søknaden, så det kan egentlig være veldig nyttig, sånn rent generelt, å bare sende inn en sånn PS-søknad, fordi at dere får litt tilbakemelding også. Husk å lese programguiden nøye når den kommer snart, håper vi, og den viktig å lese, sette seg inn i. Her er et par ressurser som dere ser. Nettsiden for PS-midler finner dere på vår nettside diku.no. Vi har også en ressursside for ny programperiode med all informasjon som vi har nå om ny programperiode. Den er veldig viktig å se på. Og så finner dere søknadsskjemaet i vårt søknadssystem Espresso. Skjemaet heter Erasmus Plus Project Development. Ja, og det er vel egentlig, det står mer på en måte i selve søknadsskjemaet hva som skal inn på de forskjellige punktene. Så da er egentlig jeg ferdig. Jeg tror ikke vi har tid til spørsmål, men dere må gjerne sende spørsmål til erasmus@diku.no.
Tusen takk, Vegard. Og det er jo som du sier, nå er tiden omme, men vi er jo her i Diku for å ta imot spørsmål hvis det skulle ha noen i ettertid, og frem mot søknadsfristen. Og det er jo, vi vet jo ikke helt hvor tid den blir, men vi håper på snart. Så takk for at dere deltok, og de som holdt ut til slutt. Det er veldig bra, så håper jeg dere fikk noe ut av dette her. Så takk for deltakelsen.